How's it hanging, YouTube? It's Peter here, Ginger Jolly Geek. Welcome back to the channel. And tonight we're going to be talking about Thor, Love and Thunder. I think this one's going to be a little bit divisive. I think there's going to be strong views on both sides of the camp, as it were. So there's no point in doing it myself. So I've got assembled a mighty cast of characters. And we'll start off with good old Jason. How are we doing, Jason?
I'm very well, thank you, Pete. How are you, buddy?
Not so bad, mate. Very hot. Are you hot?
Well, I'm a little bit sweaty, I have to admit. I haven't stopped today. And as I told you earlier on, I got stuck on a train because the tracks were too hot. They were melting. So we had to go super slow. Yeah. But yeah, we shouldn't moan. We always moan about the weather, don't we? It's boiling hot. It's like nearly 30 degrees, which is like 88 in Fahrenheit, isn't it? Something like that. So, but yeah.
Speaking of hot, here's a guy who's always got nice weather. And we've got Efren from Past Point Comics. How are you doing, Efren?
You guys are sweating more than me.
It's very true. It's very true. I can't deny it, Efren. Honestly, it's mental over here. How are you doing anyway, my friend?
I'm doing fine. How are you guys doing?
Very good. And Efren, you've got San Diego Comic Con coming up soon, haven't you? Is that next week?
Next week, man. It's amping up, man. I'm trying to make all these decisions on what I'm going to do, what time I'm going to get there. We have to get in line for certain panels. Hall H is the big thing on Saturday. So we're planning on like camping overnight on Friday, starting Friday to get into Hall H on Saturday.
Wow.
That's when Hollywood basically shows up and they show all their movies and TV shows, everything that's coming out.
What do you mean? What do you mean camping? You're going to be like sleeping on the floor of the hall waiting to get in?
I actually did it one year. People want to reserve their spots in line. So they camp out, they give out wristbands at night. And then you can either go home, but some people like staying because if you're closest to the front of the line, you get the best seats.
I mean, Efren, if you're going to be sleeping on the streets, you might bump into this guy. You know what I mean? I mean, tremendous, Ben. I mean,
training montage music.
Yeah. And is that all your own hair, Ben? Is that all your own hair?
Yeah, natural. Yeah. It's been a very stressful Monday, so I've thrown out a lot quicker than anticipated.
Very nice.
This looks rubbish, doesn't it? It looks like I've got like a cartoon mouth.
I love it. I love it. Looking good. And I have to say that you always put the effort in, Ben. So thank you very much. Always do appreciate it.
It's and so bloody hot, like you don't know.
Yeah, you're going to be regretting that, aren't you? Last but not least, we've got our good friend, good old James. How are you doing?
Heyo. What's up?
Looks nice to me.
How are you doing, James? Are you well?
Oh, good. The funniest thing about this intro is that Ben didn't know when he's coming on, so he sat like this for like 2.5 minutes.
I thought he was going to bring me in as the finale.
Then Efren just perfectly segued it in, didn't he? By saying,
segued a homeless gag. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Worked well. It worked well.
Okay, guys. Well, listen, thank you very much for joining with tonight. We've got a fair few people watching. We've got a few people in the chat already. So we've got good old Fuzzy.
Hey, Fuzz.
Nice to see you, Fuzzy. We've got Silver Knight Kyle. Hi, Silver Knight. Nice to see you, mate. Thank you for joining with.
Hey, Carl.
We've got this bloke. Don't know who he is. I'm sorry. I've just seen Fuzzy. Yeah. It does have a little Forrest Gump look about it. And we've got Darren the Optimist. And Efren. Nice to see you all. Right, guys. So let's crack straight on because I think we've got lots to talk about here. I think it's going to be an interesting one. I think, like I said at the start, I think there's going to be strong views. And please, those guys in the comments, please keep chipping away. We will keep coming back to the comments to see your views and your thoughts. Okay, so goes without saying, guys, there are going to be spoilers in this show. We're going to be spoiling the plot of the movie somewhat. And the way I want to do it tonight, guys, because we could spend all night talking about this, obviously, so I'm trying to structure it slightly. Start off a little bit talking about the overall story that Ben's going to do a little brief on, and then I'm going to kind of show images of each of the main characters, and we'll talk about those characters. At the end, we'll summarize with kind of the final battle, as it were, and talk a little bit about the humor within this film, shall we say. So, Ben, this series is based on, is it Jason Aaron's run, or is it Aaron or Aaron?
Jason Aaron, I think.
Jason
yeah.
Aaron. Tell me a little bit
two-
about that, if you don't mind.
Yeah. So the two separate runs. And of course, one sort of with the focus on Gore the God Butcher and everything that sort of comes with him and the Necrosword and everything like that. And there was like you can see from that image, there's different versions of Thor that we see in that, kind of like a past, present, and future, if I remember rightly.
Yeah.
So yeah, quite different to obviously what we saw in this film. And then of course the other run was the mighty Thor. So it was actually the way they sort of presented this was as a mystery for a good, I think it was the 7th or 8th issue when they finally sort of unmasked her as and revealed Jane Foster. So yeah, hugely popular run. I adore that Mighty Thor run. Real big fan of that. And she sort of went on to serve in like the sort of the new Avengers, Marvel Now Avengers, I think it was at the time, and has since gone on to kind of take on the mantle of Valkyrie, or a Valkyrie. So that's kind of where we're at with the characters at the moment. But yeah, Jason Aaron is he's one of my favorite writers of all time in comics. I just think everything he touches turns to gold. One of my favorite X-Men runs, as you may or may not know, I've only mentioned it a couple of times on streams, is Wolverine and the X-Men. Yeah. Absolute masterpiece. And he's writing Punisher at the moment, and it is sensational. It's absolutely breathed life into the character of Frank Castle. So yeah, those are the comics.
I mean, I have to say, Ben, you recommended the first issue of Punisher for us, and I picked it up out of interest, really, because they were changing the skull logo, weren't they? Yep. But I absolutely loved it. It was tremendous. Have you guys read these runs? I've read the Gore the God Butcher, but I've not read Mighty Thor yet. I've picked that up in Omnibus. So I've got that to read. Anybody read the stories?
I've read all the stories, and they're good, just like Thor said. And Punisher.
Oh, you can call me Ben Efren. It's okay.
Punisher is excellent. I mean, I've been reading it, obviously, and they bring back somebody from Punisher's past, and it goes bonkers. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe they brought her back. And it's a good storyline.
Yeah.
He's like recontextualized, punished, like the character of Frank Castle, which is mad if you think about it. But he's kind of explored moments of his past that just completely reframes the character. It's amazing.
Yep.
Tremendous. So yeah, really good stories. Recommend you go and pick those up, and recommend you pick up Punisher. Okay, so before we move on, I just wanted to kind of start off with the Guardians and the interesting start to the movie. So I'm gonna just jump around, but if anybody's got anything they want to say, just feel free to shout out. But we'll start with you, James. What did you think of this introduction and the kind of the Guardians element of it? Because they weren't in as long as I was expecting, to be honest.
They're barely in the movie, and I'm not really surprised. The thing that sort of did surprise me was how a lot of the stuff in the trailer is cut in the movie exactly like it is in the trailer, and it goes by very quickly. To the point that, like 8 minutes into the movie, we've seen most of the trailer stuff already. I think they were fun while they were in it. I mean, it's a cameo, extended cameo, effectively. One thing I did like is that Star-Lord didn't come off as much of a dick as he did in the trailer. Like he has that kind of nice moment with Thor, whereas I think that there's the bit where he moves in and he's like, "Oh, don't look at me" or whatever. But yeah, no, it's fun. I think it's not on par with like what James Gunn does with them, obviously, but it's a fun opening.
Yeah. Well, how about yourself, Efren? What did you think?
I enjoyed it. Like James says, they weren't there that long. I was hoping I was thinking that maybe Groot or Rocket would have gone with Thor. I think that would have made it a little bit more funnier, at certain points. But yeah, they were just there to introduce him, obviously, because he left with them, after the Avengers movie, and just, they had to be there in the beginning. So it was okay for me.
Jason, do you think it set the tone for the movie?
I don't know. There were some comedic moments in it, and I don't want to go down the route too much. I'm just going to talk about the Guardians, okay? I'll just talk about the Guardians. For me, they were a bit of a wasted opportunity. I would like to have seen a little bit more. Maybe like bookends, perhaps something at the end as well. But it's clear they're going off doing their own thing, and he's doing his thing, isn't he, old Thor?
And it's interesting you're saying that, Jason. And Darren's just said the same thing. It was a prep talk, but a bit unnecessary. And I don't know, and I'll come to you in a second, Ben. I was quite excited at the end of Endgame to think we're going to get a as Guardians of the Galaxy kind of storyline. So I don't know if that's what I went in expecting and we didn't necessarily get. But like you say, it served as a nice kind of start point, I think. For me, it was... I didn't want this to be a Guardians movie, I guess. I wanted it to be a Thor movie. Ben, what did you think of the opening?
Yeah, I think it's hard because, in the comics, this would have been a 10-issue run of Thor with the Guardians. It would have been like that time Tony Stark joined them recently and stuff. So... it's hard, isn't it, in this kind of world of the MCU, because they kind of have to squeeze stuff into either one series or a bit of a film or whatever. And ultimately, if we saw more of what we saw of the Guardians, then it then becomes a Guardians film and not as much of a Guardians and a Thor film and not just a Thor film. So I thought it kind of filled in we know now where he's been, what he's been doing with the Guardians, and it kind of filled that hole. I like the idea that because he ultimately got over PTSD, didn't he? Within Endgame and sort of found himself a bit, but we forget that when he finds himself, Thor is a bit of a knob. Even when he's trying to be good, he's still a very arrogant, individual. So I quite liked the way the whole scene was framed. That he was kind of when they asked him to help, finally they swallowed their pride and said, "Mate, we need you. Come on." He kind of made a whole big ceremony of it, and Splits was obviously a big point of contention. But when you see it in the film and the reaction is what we see on the screen right now with everyone rolling their eyes around him, it kind of makes sense. Thor was fighting in a very kind of arrogant, silly way because he didn't, but I will say this, that, he's not far off Party 4 in this scene.
I think he's
to the point where, when that palace collapses, that's something Party Thor would have done.
Imagine he did that in New York.
Yeah,
exactly. Right? Here we're people.
And I guess, Ben, and we'll come back to it later on because I do. I'm a big Thor fan. I think you're right. Thor was always an arrogant arsehole, very self-absorbed. But I think he goes beyond that in this film. He goes almost just stupid. But anyway, we'll catch that in a bit. Yeah, I agree. Be James and Matt. I agree that the chat between Thor and Stark, I loved that bit. I loved the interaction. Yeah, I did love the interaction.
But that's what happens when you get two great improvisers, and you just say, do what you want.
Rip off each other, isn't it?
Yeah. The results are funny,
Well, speaking of great improvisers, obviously I want to talk a little bit about Chris Hemsworth in this movie. So Efren, we'll come to you first. What did you think of the performance, first of all? How did you think you did?
Well, I think he's got Thor down by now. This is the fourth time at least in his own solo. He's been doing it with the Avengers, so I think he's got it down pat. I like him as Thor. I couldn't see anybody else as Thor, but I'm just getting, I don't know, guys. I'm always going to love Marvel movies. I'm always going to go, but it's just getting a little bit repetitive with me, at least, for these films. But he'll be back, and I'll be back. I'll watch him again.
That's how it goes. Endless cycle. I
think that's a really interesting point, Efren, because I'm exactly the same. We'll come on to it later on about everybody's overall views. I enjoyed this movie, but I don't enjoy Thor in this movie. I enjoy everything around him, but the character of Thor. And it's interesting because Ben, you mentioned about Hemsworth's ability to improv. I think they were some of my least favorite bits. Well, I'm guessing what the improv bits were. You know, I might be wrong. I don't know what was scripted and not. But in terms of being Thor, I think that's a challenge. In terms of him bulking up for this role, the guy's a beast, isn't he? I mean, he's
insane. How big? Do you know they're big when like their arms are resting and there's still veins. You know, like, it's just absurd.
I mean, I went with my son and my dad. Who, granted, my dad is very old, and he said, "Oh, it's good. They did a lot of CGI on Thor, didn't it?" Said, he goes, "Well, the muscles and stuff." I said, "For God's sake, Dad, man, that's just him." You know?
I'm just impressed he knows what CGI is. That's
That's the thing, though. When your son is Triple G Comics, you just don't think it's possible for a body to look like that. Like, no.
Not funny. Not funny. So, how then, guys? What did the rest of you think of Thor as a character in this movie?
Yeah, I mean, I look, like I'm struggling a little bit with the kind of aftermath of like going to see this film, to be honest. Like, and I went on a stream yesterday evening, and it was like 7-1 on the panel for like people hating on it, and I felt so sort of alone in my optimism about it all. Like, I completely get the criticisms, and I completely get that the Thor fans like Peter, you know, diehard Thor fans from the beginning, this is not their Thor. But one of the arguments that I sort of present in my review video was the idea that any legacy Marvel characters that are still left, your Hulks, your Hawkeyes, they've been through such a character journey a lot quicker than what we would witness in the comics, because in the comics it takes 20 years for them to go through the journey, but like in the MCU it's all happened within 10 years. But they've all been on such a journey that Professor Hulk is not the Hulk that we all know and love. Like, Hawkeye is a deaf, wise old man, you know, that's not the Hawkeye that we know from the comics, and they've all changed so much from that initial Avengers film. And I think Thor is another character that has been, I think the idea is that he's been so molded by Earth, and you know, he's not a bright individual. Like, he's an alien, isn't he? Essentially, he's an alien that has resided on Earth for a long time. And what happens with that? The alien comes across as stupid quite a lot because they're not accustomed to the way things are or whatever. So, like, I'm okay with this interpretation because I've kind of seen everything that's come before. My worry before the film was like, I just don't see where Thor can go from here. Like, I feel like Endgame was such, like, he was at the bottom, you know, he hit rock bottom and they pulled him back out of it. You know, Rocket pulled him back out of it, and you know, they forged a Stormbreaker in the eye of a star, and it was all amazing. But like, where do you go from there? Yeah. And I think this is the problem that a lot of this film faces, is it's like, where do you go from there? But by the end of it, and I know we'll come to it, that end scene presents something really interesting for me as a you know, to see Thor kind of how he manages that as a character. So yeah, I get it. But I think, look, you know, if it was Peter Parker, I'd probably be having an absolute mare because I've got such an emotional attachment.
So it's interesting, Ben, because I was thinking about that today, because obviously I've watched your video, and I'm just gonna, you know, see where I am with this.
Were you the one who thumbs down it?
Yeah, yeah. No, I enjoyed the movie for what it was, but I don't like Thor in it. And I was trying to think about what you were saying, and I guess in my simplistic brain, I was thinking it's the equivalent of you watching Obi-Wan Kenobi and Darth Vader doing a song and dance scene on the last episode and suddenly cracking jokes with the stormtroopers. It's such a shift in characters. You know, that's not Darth Vader. And to me, this just isn't Thor that I know of. This is
I mean, the song and dancing, you might be taking it a bit too far, but
you know,
I see what you're getting at. You Thor die hard, but yeah, no, I mean, it's like, for me, my favorite version of Thor in the comics was Ultimate Thor, because, you know, that was probably the most similar to this Thor, in the sense that he was like a bemused alien that sort of was very displaced and didn't fit in, and you know, sort of did some silly things. So yeah, I don't know. I just don't, that whole old 60s Thor doesn't do it for me.
And to be honest, me neither. I prefer the more modern version. Just going to jump to the comments here a second before anybody else jumps in. Silver Knight Kyle is just saying there he thinks it's more aimed towards kids. I think there was a lot of humor in it. I think you're right there. Fuzzy.
That's what it's about, though. That's what it needs to be about now. Unfortunately, not us.
I think that there's a few like quite rude things in this movie, particularly for kids.
Dark at times. Fuzzy's making a good point there about we expect too much from movies these days, and not every film has to be a massive epic. Now that's really interesting because I'm not going to say which stream, but I was watching a stream where they were talking about this, and there was a lot of excitement about how the movie wasn't going anywhere, didn't link to the bigger picture, and where's the kind of the big overarching plan. Before the MCU, we didn't have an overarching plan. It was just a movie was a movie, and you went and you watched it and enjoyed it. It doesn't have to link to the next 10 movies and hint. So I think that's an unfair criticism. I think this is allowed to stand as just a standalone movie. Would you agree, or do you think it has to link to everything before?
No, I think there's too much expectation now. I think with especially with MCU movies, and everyone is looking for that angle of like, oh, where's it linking to the next one, or other films. And we had that, didn't we, with the phase 2, 3, and 4 of all these movies joining up. And at the moment, it's hard for us to see what that's going to be. But they're clever people. Kevin Feige is a very clever person. And who knows, we may all just go, do you know what? You had us fooled all along. You've done a fantastic job. And this is where it all fits in. Something's going to happen. I'm still positive about it. I still feel that something big is going to happen and it's going to tie everything in.
I think that one thing is we have to separate comic book Thor and superheroes and comic books from the movies. They're Absolutely. Not the same people. I think that's part of the problem with me. When I read Thor, it's a lot more serious. And I like the comedy in the Thor movies a little bit, but sometimes I just think they're going overboard now with the comedy. Like I've mentioned before, the very first Thor movie, there was no comedy, it was serious. Yeah. And then they decided to shift, and maybe a new director may, change things, with them also when the next movie comes out.
I think you're absolutely right, Efren. And I went into this and I think I talked to a few of you guys earlier. I went into this very much trying to divorce my mind from what I see as Thor and seeing this as MCU Thor. I guess what I would say about Thor 1, but there was humor in that. It just wasn't over the top humor.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about the bit where he smashes the tank and stuff was good.
And the Warriors 3 were purely, comic relief, weren't they?
But I did want to mention just this very briefly. Sorry, James, you come back in a second. Just wanted to mention this because I know Ben's on and obviously big hot toy collector. And Ben, we've talked about this gold and blue armor, and I have no interest in that as a hot toy. The other version, the fur cape, leather, I'll sign us up for that. But I've not seen a hot toy version of that. But that's
my favorite of his outfits in these movies so far.
It's superb.
I love
Absolutely superb. But I've not seen anything about that, Ben. I don't think they're doing one, or they're not announced one of those, have they?
No, I mean, look, I'll be pissed if they announce that before we get Jane or Valkyrie. I'm really hoping for a Mighty Thor hot toys. I love this this central look, the kind of Thunderstrike inspired, but then there's obviously accents of the original costume with the yellow and black sort of bootstraps and stuff. So I just think it's just so glam, like 80s glam rock, and I am all about camp rock. Sign me up.
And there is a third-party figure version of that, but it's horrific.
It's horrendous.
God.
I mean, it's worth buying maybe for the outfit, and then you can shove a different head sculpt on. It's bad.
So Ben just mentioned, I'll come to you first, Jason. What do we think of Jane in this movie?
Fantastic. I thought Natalie Portman was great in it. And she looked really buff in it, didn't she? It's clear that she's done quite a bit of training. I thought she played the role really, really well, especially with her having to transition from being a very weak, dying person, and then transforming then into Lady Thor. I thought she did a standard job. I thought she was brilliant in it.
I mean, I thought she was probably just one of the standout characters in this for me. I thought she was superb.
I loved her
just
outfit. The outfit looked amazing. The helmet.
Yeah.
I'm going to come to you, James, and I guess, again, I watched another stream a little while ago, and they were quite dismissive about the handling of the cancer arc. Now, as a cancer nurse, I absolutely loved it. I thought they did that really well. And, you know, I think it was addressed. I think Thor addressed it. I think Valkyrie addressed it. It just wasn't overtly, oh my God, you're dying. But I quite like that. What were your thoughts on that? Did they do enough for you on that?
I think there was enough there to have its own movie, you know. So there is sort of we need to get to this point, and that's why they do the whole he blessed the hammer, and that's why she's Mighty Thor. It's not like he's unworthy and all that, but I'm sort of surprised at the tone. I thought that because Chris Hemsworth is the goofball, that you would pair a more serious character. So I thought she would take this really seriously, but they're both goofballs. And I thought I saw that in some of the trailers before it came out, and I was kind of surprised at that. Like, is that reflective in the comics? Like,
I've not read them.
No, she's serious in it.
Yeah.
That's how I thought.
I mean, she quips in the comics, but it's not. It's like it's actual cool quips. It's not her being goofy.
Eat my hammer.
Because I thought that. I mean, again, it's like it's very different version, but I thought it was very cute how kind of endearing and almost she felt like a competition winner when she was in the suit, sort of thing, and that was quite cute, and it really endeared me to Jane Foster, who, to be honest, as a character in the MCU, I've not felt a connection with. I felt that Natalie Portman's. I don't think it's necessarily her acting, but the writing has been quite flat for Jane. So it was nice that Jane. I kind of felt like I've got to know Jane a little bit more now. Sadly too late. Lol. But yeah, the cancer stuff. Like, I quite liked how she was joking with Kat Dennings' character. What's her name again?
Darcy.
Yeah, like I quite liked how she was shrugging it off with Darcy, and because I was saying on this other stream actually that's probably what I would do if I was ill. I'd be making jokes about it and stuff. That's how some people handle it. So I actually thought that felt quite authentic. I know it sounds a bit morbid, but I actually kind of wish that they lent more into the sort of visuals of her demise, because in the comics, we do get that very haunting visual of her with the effects of chemo, being bald and really kind of being very poorly. And I think they kind of maybe shied away from that towards the end.
You saw a little of it, didn't you? But not a great deal. I think at one point was on the book.
She had dark eyes and her hair was sort of, a bit thin, but it wasn't. I think that would have had like a real oh fuck, like if we saw her really, really poorly. But like James said, it's crammed into a film, and like for me, like imagine the emotional punch this story would have had if we had spent 6 hours with her on Disney Plus last year, leading up to the events of this, talking about her first getting the hammer, maybe a few, adventures, one kind of throwaway villain or whatever. Like I did feel like it was all a bit quick, but that's the MCU for you, isn't it? It's like Age of Ultron was a fortnight with Ultron, Yeah,
absolutely. I think you're right, Ben, and I think for me that you could have had that series of her having the power of Thor and all the rest of it without the reveal that it was actually not doing her any good. Do you know what I mean? That kind of heartbreak moment where you realize actually she's still dying, because up to that point you think she's saved, don't you? Efren, just
in the comics, did Mjolnir save her from the cancer?
No, it was the villain as well. She had to make the same choice towards the end.
Efren, just coming to you. Did you watch the after credits? Did you watch all the after credits?
Yeah, you know what about after credits? I'll never understand why. I'm not sure how it happens in the UK, but people leave before the after credits still.
You think they'd know by now,
I
wouldn't
feel
you?
like telling them, "Hey, come back! Have you ever been to a Marvel movie before?"
You dirty casuals.
I don't understand.
I guess the question I want to ask you, Efren,
Okay.
and again, if anybody else wants to jump in on this, was I felt an emotional connection when she died.
Yeah.
But then that kind of disappeared when you saw her back in Valhalla. I understand why you have her come back in Valhalla, but I don't know. For me,
that's always been the problem with Valhalla, though, hasn't it? In the
Yeah,
comics,
yeah.
like you're like, oh, don't worry, they'll come back.
I just felt it kind of knocked some of the emotional impact. How did you feel about it, Efren?
No, it didn't bother me. I knew she was going to come back in Valhalla. Anybody who reads the comic book, she was a god, and they always end up there. So I knew that was coming. So it didn't bother me, and that's a way to bring her back, because I think eventually they were as Valkyrie, as you guys have been saying,
Yeah.
But really quick, I did enjoy the scenes with Natalie Portman and Tessa Thompson.
Yeah.
I would love to see them do like a
She has a speaker and she's like
together, man. I think
this-
or a series. I just liked when they talk to each other, the repartee between them. I thought it was excellent. That's one of the best parts of the movie for me.
Absolutely.
It's funny. I took the Valhalla scene as a goodbye. When I saw it, it was only afterwards that I learned that there's a Valkyrie thing later on.
Yeah.
So
Goodbye.
She signed
until
up for a
Secret
3
Wars.
deal, I think, didn't she? So I knew about that beforehand. But I was also looking out for Sif's arm.
yeah, that seems like an easy joke they could have done there.
Just in the background, crawling along.
Yeah.
Jason, come to you then. Valkyrie, how do you think she performed in this movie?
I thought she was great, but I felt she was underused a little bit. I love her. I think she's great, and she was obviously bored with the day job, wasn't she? You could see that she was fed up.
Speaking of
and she wanted a bit
underused,
of action.
Speaking of underused, Jason, and I'll get the name wrong, but I was going to ask Ben about this. The bug, is it Malekith? What's the bug creature? Meek. I mean, he was literally one scene, wasn't he?
One gag, yeah.
Yeah.
I love that you just called him Malekith, the dark
Yeah,
elf.
that's the dark elf, isn't it? That's the dark elf. I knew that.
Imagine him working as a
Yeah. So I think, I mean, personally, I thought she was great. I think you're right. She didn't have masses to do. But again, like Ben was saying, in terms of a Disney Plus show, I'd love to see more about what's going on in New Asgard, about the kind of the comings and goings there that are happening. Okay. James, what do you think of Korg?
It's just great, as always. And I think most of the comedy that comes out of this character lands. I think it's other things that comedy-wise I have problems with. But yeah, I mean, just always fun, hilarious, had me in stitches the whole movie. I'd like the whole how they make babies bit.
Yeah.
That was like really. I was surprised, like in the movie, but also surprised that the movie like did that. And I'm interested to see internationally if that will affect like the release of it. But
all right, see, I didn't even think of that.
Yeah. So no, it's great as always.
Just before we move on, sorry,
Knight.
Ben.
Oh,
I was going to say just before we move on about Silver Knight. Kyle's a guy who I've done a few shows with the Grey Man, and this is fantastic news, Kyle. Really pleased for you, mate. Fantastic.
Great, man. Well done.
Over the moon.
Oh, yeah.
Tremendous.
You have the power of a god, my friend.
Good stuff. Okay, Efren, what do you think of Korg? Anything you want to add about Korg?
I like the character. It's a good. It's like a sidekick now for Thor. He's been in the movies, and it's the director who's the voice of this. I forgot
Waititi.
Yeah, so he plays the character in that. So I thought it was when we're talking about spoilers. When we thought he died, I went, "Damn it!" One of my favorite characters.
Yeah, that's another fake death the movie has.
I'm fed about the fake deaths. It happens a lot.
Yeah, so I'm glad he was in the movie. It's a good, and he was like basically the storyteller of the movie too.
I did enjoy those scenes where he was retelling the story. Ben, I know you don't like this character. Is that right?
Oh, piss off! Piss off, Ghost. I absolutely adore Korg. I'm already very biased because I'm a big fan of Taika Waititi. Like, What We Do in the Shadows is one of my favorite films
Same.
ever. Like, just his sense of humor, just completely resonates with me. Like, I've got something for like New Zealand comedians because like Flight of the Conchords and stuff. Like, I just love. I think they've got a very kind of dry, sarcastic, surreal sense of humor, like us Brits. So and Irish. Sorry, James. And no offense, Efren. So yeah, and half the American viewers. Sorry, everyone. But yeah, I really, really love him. I'm in love with him, and I am playing the part of Dwayne in the next film.
Is that right?
In my voice, yes.
I think he's from it. Good, a good 1/6 scale figure just being released of him as well. That was really good. I'm just chucking that in. But yeah, and Taika Waititi's the voice he does for him. I don't know if you've seen him on The Last Leg, where he does the voice as a bouncer with people trying to get in the club.
Yes, I have seen that.
Brilliant. Yeah. So yeah, super.
I'm sorry. I think part of the problem with this movies is I think that director and the actors they're too comfortable with these movies, and it's just like natural. It comes natural for them. It's almost like they're just having a big party and when they're making this movie.
Yeah.
I think that is. There was a 4-hour cut of this movie with. Like that was all 2 hours of improv, you know.
Oh, there's
That's so infectious though. Like, and I think that bleeds off the screen when someone's having fun, and when they're not. Like it shows. And you look at Dark World and how much everybody hated being a part of that. Like, and it showed. You know, it showed in some of the performances. And like, you know, I was saying about Natalie Portman and not clicking with Jane, but that's because she maybe wasn't having fun
miserable.
Like, yeah.
But I think the Christopher Eccleston's particularly difficult to work with.
Yeah, he's a challenge, isn't he?
Yeah, he's super serious.
Zeus. Wow.
Hilarious.
I love this. This might be my favorite thing in the movie.
Brilliant.
So I have issues, and we'll talk about it in a bit, about some of the humor in this. But for me, this just hit the mark perfectly. I just thought it was hilarious. And the bit where he comes down the stairs after lifting his
It's like that, doesn't it?
He was so dainty and he sort of floated down the stairs, didn't he? Brilliant.
But it just, you know, from the very start, like I say, I have issues with how some of the scenes in this, but like when he said, you know, we need to agree, can't even speak. He arrives for this big kind of massive arrival, and then his first thing is we need to book the venue for the orgy. I
was like, we're going there in Marvel. Okay, yeah.
Hold on a second, Peter. Can you make Jason Parker Comics large?
I don't know. Can I, Jason? Can I make no?
And just hold out your arms, Jason. Just hold those arms out. I'm telling you, next cosplay. Soon.
Zeus.
What they want.
He's not wrong, Jason. He's not wrong.
Give him a curly wig.
Yeah. No, so yeah, I love Zeus. What did you guys think? I'm getting some positivity here. Did you all like his portrayal? I mean, Russell Crowe, he's phenomenal.
He was brilliant. He was very good. And the thing is, we're used to seeing Russell Crowe in straight-laced roles, aren't we? The hard man, the nutter, the psycho, and to see him play an effeminate role, really, and someone that's kind of goofy, with the strangest Greek accent I've ever heard. It sounds more Italian to me.
I imagine it probably offends quite a lot of Greeks.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I'll run with it. You know, if he did a Welsh accent and it was bad, I wouldn't be offended.
Yeah.
Welsh Zeus.
Yeah. So we're agreeing that Zeus was a bit of a triumph for you, yeah?
I do want to add with Zeus though, like and James sort of alluded to it there, like as much as I love Korg and stuff, like and you know, celebrate him and things, like I do feel like that moment where Zeus strikes him down was such like a, oh okay, we're not joking anymore, like Zeus is not come to play. And I kind of wish they committed to that a little bit, and it would have been really sad. And look, you know, Secret War's around the corner, Korg can come back, they'll find a way or whatever, but like I just felt like if they had hung on that moment a lot more, it would have really given Zeus a scary element to his character, which was lost.
It's interesting you're saying that, Ben, because I think we've talked previously about how Ragnarok for me had that tipping point where it went from being really quite funny to kind of action and oh my god, you're on the bridge. I'm thinking, and I thought that was this point. when Korg got hit, I thought, oh, it's gonna kick up yet.
Yeah,
But
and they
then
just didn't follow that
didn't.
path.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would also, because it's safe to assume Zeus will be reappearing in the next one. That would have added another good element to it, that he's the one that killed Korg. You'd have another thing to kind of play with in that next movie.
Exactly.
Maybe.
Yeah. And have you seen the concept art that has supposedly come out of what the original plan was for Russell Crowe? So he essentially appears in a devil-like form, and it looks like he was originally going to be Mephisto.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh my
right.
God.
We should say that.
It's
I'm pleased I went this
Mephisto.
because this was great. Zeus was completely silly, great fun, and slightly. Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Okay. So, okay, Efren, we'll start off with you this time. Christian Bale is Gore. What did you think?
I mean, I liked him as I could really feel his pain and why he did. I liked the way they did his origin basically at the beginning, when his daughter died, that's what led him to this path. And the gods that he finally met were so, there was jerks basically. They didn't care about the human race.
You can say jerks, Efren. It's okay.
Yeah. Okay.
You can say that. They were pricks.
Yeah. So you could feel his anguish of the movie and how it carried on, for who knows how many thousands and thousands of years he was going after them, So I thought it was well portrayed, But I didn't like at the end though. It was like all was forgiven, But I didn't like that at all, But it is what it is,
But that's what Disney are doing now, aren't they? With pretty much every villain, they're humanizing them.
Yeah.
Making them sympathetic characters.
Yep.
So there's no clear bad guy anymore. I think they're trying to blur the lines a little bit, maybe. But yeah, it's always a happy ending, isn't it?
Yeah.
What did you think, James? What did you think of Christian Bale's performance?
I think every scene he's in has like a sort of an electricity to it. And for a movie that I think one of my complaints about is that it is too silly. It has a very serious opening where there's not really a laugh to be had. But his performance was, we all knew coming into this he was going to knock it out of the park, and he does. Yeah. But I think like the Jane Foster thing just feels a little bit rushed to me. And I think like the movie almost sort of has Spider-Man 3 syndrome, where it's plucked 3 or 4 things and doing all of them okay, but not great or as well as they could be if they took one out and focused more on the others,
So yeah, I agree, James. So I loved. I'm not a massive Christian Bale fan, I have to be honest, but I loved him in this movie. I know. I thought he was absolutely superb. I thought every scene he was in was brilliant. Even the one that I was worried about, where he did the funny laugh in the trailer, I thought worked beautifully.
Yeah.
But at that start scene where you see him and his daughter dies, and then he encounters the gods, I found that weird. I couldn't quite work out what the gods were. They like shimmering or something, or it just, I don't know.
I think it was a CGI man or CGI enhanced.
It felt
man.
very dramatic and then almost a bit weird after that.
Yeah.
Ben, what are your thoughts on Gore during the movie?
I thought it was an absolute showstopper. This was exactly what I wanted Malekith to be.
Yeah.
And he wasn't. And like the level of creepiness and intimidation and visually just so striking, just to see those glowing yellow eyes kind of emerge from the darkness and seeing him kind of jump in and out of shadows, and just that
was really creepy when that happened. You just know where he's going to turn up.
I know he's obviously not got his tentacles and things like that, but just those kind of almost.
Oh, I could see them. I could see them, Ben. They were in his trousers. I could see them.
Oh, nice. Flopping around in the wind.
But like, I didn't miss them, Ben. Did you guys miss them? I know there's an aesthetic about the character, but I liked him for what he was. Do you know what I mean?
I wouldn't have wanted any, because I think if you'd made his nose flat and if you had added on some big CG tentacles, then potentially we would have lost those nuances of his performance. And that, that's exactly what I thought when they first announced that was how he was going to look. And I was exactly right, because in the film, it's those little kind of Christian Baleisms when, and Christian Bale as a performer, he's so unpredictable, and that's what makes him absolutely electrifying to watch. You kind of he doesn't follow the normal rhythm of an actor or a performer, and I just think that's so exciting to witness. So yeah, I was in love with this villain. He potentially is now one of my favorite MCU villains, like today, I would say. And does that mean I would have wanted more? No, I don't think so, because I think unfortunately he was just cog in something great, much bigger, down the line for Marvel. But like a lot, you're going to have your villains that only serve as one movie villains. So if you're going to do it, then bloody do it well, and they really did here. So yeah, and obviously the emotional. I mean, Jason obviously mentions about the sort of creating empathy with the villains and stuff, and that's not necessarily new. You look at Vader in Return of the Jedi and how much that they kind of humanized him and did the whole Anakin backstory in the end and stuff. And obviously Thanos in the MCU is one of those ones that has people debating, like, what he did was kind of right. And
do you think though, Ben, that because Disney know that works so well with Star Wars, they just keep using that now?
I'm just trying to think back to, like, Green Goblin is, although he's kind of got like a mental health disorder essentially, hasn't he? I'm just trying to think if there's any examples. What other Phase 4 villains have we had? I think Agatha is quite a good cardboard cutout bad guy for the sake of being a bad guy.
But I think that's in WandaVision go forward, which she has her own Disney Plus show. She's not going to be a villain in that, so
I mean, hopefully Kang is a bad guy because he's a bad guy.
Depends which version we get of him, isn't it? Which variant? And we've already had Kang, and he seems like a really nice guy.
Yeah.
Top fella.
Top bloke, yeah.
Bring on the incursion.
So anyway, guys, I think we're all agreed that Christian Bale's performance was pretty outstanding. Amazing. I think in this for me.
Talk about figures, Peter. I want this I'm desperate for this as a figure.
Do you think, because either James or Matt have mentioned there about the shadows being not the best or whatever. I was never sure if they were going shadow or if they were trying to leave it vague enough for it to be Venom symbiotes, That's the link in the comics, isn't it? That it's the god of the swords.
I don't think they're going to go the symbiote route with.
Yeah, I just wondered if they were leaving it vague enough, so just in case they ever did, they could bring it.
I think they could. I don't think
they Venom now in the MCU, don't we, guys?
Say again.
We do.
We've got a little bit of the symbiote in the MCU now.
Yeah.
They didn't explain it, Peter, at all. Yeah. So I definitely think that door's wide open to go back and say that it's a symbiote. That sword belongs to Null or whoever.
Yeah, that'll be quite exciting. So, this guy is pretty hideous, and I thought that was the most hideous thing I'd seen. And then we see this. So, guys, we're doing this at the start, at the center point. This is not the end of the show. Don't switch off. But I wanted to give people the chance to talk about what's coming up on their shows now before the end, when we sometimes lose people. So, Ben, what's this?
Oh, that's very kind of you, Peter. Thanks. Keep that retention going. This is my Thor: Love and Thunder review. So, of course, I've spoken far more than I probably should have already tonight. But if you want to see me speak some more, then I made a whole 10-minute video with my kind of extended thoughts. Of course, it does feature a silly little sketch at the beginning and at the end.
And I have to say,
reward the viewers.
My personal opinion, Ben, and I've watched pretty much all of your stuff. This is the best cosplay so far. I love this opening.
Thanks.
What's this?
And this is my Stranger Things season 4 review. So it's just my thoughts on the 4th season. And there I am as a chubby Eddie.
That your face just put on there? Was that actually you?
It's me.
That is amazing.
Oh, the Vecna, do you mean?
No. I thought with you.
I'm not. That's Vecna. That's Vecna. And then a collection tour video, which is was something I've kind of put off. I didn't know whether I wanted to do. I didn't know if I had enough stuff. And then I ended up making a 42-minute long video. So, yes, it's my collection tour video, the first, hopefully, of many.
Good stuff. Few things from me. This week I've got a comic video. I can't even remember what's in the video. I must have bought something. That's I don't know what it is. Anyway, we've got What If coming up.
Great
now, mate.
We've got What If coming up 19th of July, where we're going to be reinventing Doctor Strange. Looking forward to that one. Everybody on the panel, welcome if you want to take part. We've got Boys and the Toys coming up on the 26th of July, so that's the week after. New format to that like the last time, so I think that ran a bit smoother and a bit nicer, so we're going to keep that format going. I did want to mention this is the Nerd Herds Comic Book Club on Wednesday. They're going to be talking about one of my favorite series, Young Justice. I remember reading it when it first came out, so please go and check the guys out on Wednesday over at the Nerd Herd. Jason.
Yeah, I don't know whether to go with this thumbnail or not. I don't know if I'll be pulled for the blunt that I'm smoking. So I may use the other one that I sent you, the orange one instead. But no, I actually get to dip my toe into the world of Golden Age comics, and it's a slippery slope.
Pricey books, Jason.
Books. Yeah, very pricey, mate. But it's going to be my first one that I'm going to be doing, and hopefully there'll be some more to come. But so I'll be doing the big reveal. I don't know when. I haven't even filmed it yet.
I'm going to push you, Jason. Marvel or DC?
DC.
Oh. You had to think about that. How many Golden Age books have you got? You weren't sure.
I kind of forgot about it. I won't say when it's DC.
Yeah, don't say it. DC.
It's DC have a better Golden Age person.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a very minor key, very minor. But
I was looking at some very old DC books away because I'd love, out of all the DC books, some of the early Flash books. But my lord, those prices are eye-watering. But yeah, looking forward to that one, Jason. Looking forward to that one.
Yes.
James.
Yeah, I had last week or the week before CGC live unboxing I did on my channel, 15 books. Most of you guys were there. It was a good time. So yeah, tune into that if you want a good laugh.
Good stuff.
And then I have a video about PlayStation Productions, all the TV shows and movies they have in development at the moment. So that'll be this week at some point.
Tremendous.
What's that one on the right there, dude?
Sweet Tooth from Twisted Metal. They're doing Peacock is doing a show with Anthony Mackie.
Oh, I like that.
Will Arnett is playing him in the show.
Is Twisted Metal a very old game? I seem to remember.
Yes, from the PS1. It's sort of like a car combat thing, but it's got an interesting choice to do an adaptation of. But it'll be kind of like a
I think I remember a pinball game version of it as well.
I'm sure there probably is. Yeah.
Efren, don't have a slide for you, but what have you got coming up on your channel, mate?
That's okay. Peter and I usually do videos. We've missed a month or so we
need to get back on them.
Those. We always do our top fives, and what other we do?
We do top 5 monthly picks.
Yeah, and costly if we were to do that again.
Yeah, costly case.
Sure. But I'm going to be on Instagram Live next week. I'll be posting Instagram Live I'll be at San Diego Comic-Con next week, and I'll be going live, throughout the day, showing stuff around the convention. If anybody wants to check it out, Passpoint Comics under Instagram. I made a trade for a comic book. I got one of my grails. I keep on wanting to make that video. Hopefully I'll do it right after this. I went to a small little convention. It's not a convention, just like a comic book sale, a little bit up north from where I live. And I brought some comic books specifically to make a trade. And, it went pretty well. And I sold one of my books too. My Giant Size X-Men. I sold one there at the convention. When I made talk all about it. So how it went.
Excellent. Look forward to that. Yeah. Okay,
I
guys.
thought you were sending me that for my birthday, Efren. What's going on?
Sure, I'm gonna hand deliver it to you. It's probably cheaper.
Okay, guys. So let's crack back on with Thor review. I'm gonna come to the bit now that I guess didn't sit as well with me, and that was some of the just how silly it was at times because even the big fans of this movie, you've got to admit, it really pushed the line on some of the comedy elements. First thing I want to start on, because these guys have been mentioned on a few occasions, but I want to start with the goats because I actually really enjoyed the goats. For me, that was the right level of humor. I liked the screaming and I liked when they flew into the planet. What were your thoughts on on these guys?
I like them a lot.
Tooth Gnasher and Tooth Grinder.
Yeah.
I think that comedy is very interesting sometimes when you have a gag. You could do it once, twice, 3 times maybe, and then you might start to struggle to sell that same gag. And I think there was maybe 1 or 2 screams over the threshold for me.
Yeah.
You know, and it kind of cheapened the impact of it. Like, I think it potentially could have been quite funny to have built up to, you know, them not make any sound, and then there'd be a moment and they actually screamed because Gore had showed up or something like. And it reminded me of the. Do you remember that like old TikTok video or whatever? It was like Taylor Swift. It did. You know, it tickled me, but it was definitely maybe
went on too much.
Yeah, just went on a little bit too much, and I think there was another moment that felt similar for me. But to be honest, like that's it for me. Like I loved every other bit of kind of comedy and all the improv stuff. I loved.
Challenge you, Ben. I'm going to challenge you here then.
Okay.
The bit that I cringed at
Dumpling
was where Heimdall's son wanted to change his name to Axel.
Oh, yeah.
And they were arguing back and forth about what name he should have.
I forgot about that joke.
I fucking cringed at that. I really did.
I went to the toilet during that scene. I came back.
And I think I come to realise I do not like kids in films. I really don't.
Yeah.
It was the dumpling bit for me though. Was another bit. Like that scene. It had so much. Sorry, Peter.
No.
But it had so much potential. Like in terms of kind of like aesthetically, I thought it looked fantastic. And then you had all of these different gods, and they were all different shapes and sizes. I like the weird little furry guy. It was very like Star Wars cantina scene, you know, Jabba's palace, that sort of stuff, which I love. The dumpling was just that bridge too far, and it just took it out of me. It just felt like a completely different genre. Like it was
too jarring.
So it's interesting. A Pixar movie. Like
it's interesting you saying that, Ben, and I'll come to you in a second, James, because I thought Star Wars, but a different scene. I thought the Senate scene. And do you know when you E.T.? I was looking for that. I was looking for a glimpse of someone from the MCU or a glimpse of someone from Marvel Comics, and I got a friggin' dumpling. And it was like, what the hell? It just pulled us straight out the movie.
I think it would have been much better to instead of this gag, because this, like, do you remember the days when we thought a talking raccoon was about as ridiculous as things we're going to get? This is like just nonsense, and like there's no point to it. It's just a hey, look at this funny thing gag. But I would have.
If it was like a character from the comics or something, like, you know, like not Spider-Ham, but you know, if it was like in that vein and it was at least a nod to the comics, then at least we've kind of got that level to appreciate it on. But like, who's this for? Who's this joke for?
Is it a thing?
No. Just obviously Taika Waititi likes bao buns, which they're delicious. I mean, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But you know, don't put them in the Thor.
I think potentially it's a commentary, isn't it, on like modern gods and who people worship now. You know, the people worship cute, kawaii things, and I don't know.
I think instead of this gag, they should have had Tarouette from Moon Knight. And have her have a little wave and like a little quip.
That was the biggest missed opportunity to not have Tarouette there. Like, and it wouldn't have impacted anything. She could have been there. It wouldn't have made any difference to Moon Knight or anything. Just have her there. Give us. And this has been a big problem for me with Phase 4 is that it doesn't feel like there's a lot of communicating going on. Across.
Doesn't feel joined up, does it?
No,
we did see the Celestials though, didn't we?
Yeah. For a brief.
That was pretty cool.
Ephraim, what did you think of the dumpling god?
I just rolled my eyes. I go, what is this? You know, I go, it's like they're forcing humor on us, or want us to laugh about that. But just went, okay, what the heck is this? It seems so out of place.
Yeah,
like let's just throw this in.
Does it?
Yeah. It would have been funny if somebody would have ate it.
Yeah, Korg.
in,
Korg picks it up and
in the
eats it.
chaos or
Yes.
something later. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
there's a little dumpling here, bro.
Well, then that would have been like a point to the joke. Then, do you know,
Yeah.
like it wouldn't have just been a thing that goes nowhere. Like,
Yeah.
that would have.
But I think, you know, even down to the fact that the animation of it just looked totally out of kilter with everything else that was
Such a
bizarre.
Looks
weird
like
choice.
looks like
It's
Pixar.
so weird.
It's weird.
Another big kind of humor point that I think a lot of people enjoyed, but I found really challenging was this stuff.
I
I love
love this.
I
I
like
love
it.
this so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I liked it.
Ugh.
The love triangle.
Yeah, I feel so alone. Efren, did you like this bit? The Thor talking to his hammer and them. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I did chuckle at bits where it kind of came along the side next to him and stuff like that.
Off shot. Yeah.
Yeah, but what did you think of it, Efren?
I like that humor part of it. You know, like I said, I just think they had too much humor for the whole movie, but scenes like this that stuck out when he's trying to make up with his own hammer, you know, no, you're my hammer and stuff like that. I thought that was pretty cool. I like that. I did like those scenes.
So it is just you then, Pete.
Just
sorry.
me.
when he tickled its balls.
Yeah. So I'm alone here. I'm alone in the hammer.
Yeah. This was the one that landed for me the best. I thought.
Although
This
I
is-
would say it did, like everyone says, it did go on a little bit too long.
Yeah.
It's almost like reusing the same joke over and over, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just on the topic of like Mjolnir, I really liked how it would like split off into pieces and then come
Yeah,
back
that was really
into action.
interesting.
That was
So, like I said, I've not read that run of the comic, but is that something that happens in the comic?
No.
Or is that? No, I did. I like that, James. You're right.
It's not broken in the comics. It's just she's just got the normal
Got the
hammer.
normal one, yeah. And you know, I haven't got a slide for it, but just to comment, the action in this movie is very, very strong. I mean, there are
Brilliant.
some good battle scenes.
Yeah.
I do wish the battle on New Asgard was a straight up battle without so much of the interruptions of him kind of trying to talk to Jane and stuff. I would have rather just a plain fight. But I do think the action scenes and the scene with the black and white world were phenomenal.
the Shadow Realm. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
I wish they would have shown Jane becoming Thor for the first time, the transformation.
Yeah.
You know, I thought that was a missed opportunity.
Yeah,
I
I
actually-
agree. Actually,
Yeah, I would have liked if they did we didn't see her before we see her as Thor, and then we maybe flash back to how that happened. You know, that she comes in that was a surprise.
I mean, an amazing entrance, wasn't it? Really, with her arriving, you know, and the
Definitely.
lightning and the thunder, superb. Okay, so kind of rounding up the end of the movie here. What did we think of the final battle?
is that a picture from the film on the right?
No, it's not. But
Those kids are there.
it's a comment I want to make about the kids in the movie. The entire. Oh, I'm not going to go negative straight away. Tell us what you think about the end of the movie, guys.
Such a grumpy bastard up there.
Well, you know my opinion, guys. I don't like kids to get involved.
Yeah.
Peter, are you holding the necro sword? Is that what's
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah. I'm holding a sword. It's not the necklace.
I
what did
actually
you think?
really liked when he gave the kids the powers, like because that's something he'd be able to do is like channel, the way Odin does, like a charm or whatever. But I was like in the movie, I was like, I don't know why.
No,
Just
James, it regressed me to a childlike state. And I was watching that moment thinking, if I was watching this as a 10-year-old,
Oh my god, yeah.
would have been my world. Like just the idea that Thor has given you temporary powers and the bloody girl with the bunny, and like it was just so unashamedly fun and silly, and kind of served the story because it meant that they kept all the shadow monsters entertained while the adults fight. And I just thought it was a blast. I loved it.
I think we're alone.
Jason.
I
Silence,
wasn't a huge fan. Why did they film everything in the dark as well? Every big battle scene's got to be in the dark, isn't it?
Cheaper.
That's our eyes.
Yeah, I was going to say. Yeah.
Hide the bad CGI, probably, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
No, they had some good moments, had some funny moments, had some serious moments, but again, don't get kids involved. They don't know what they're doing.
They have
The
to bring the
future,
kids
Jason.
in.
Come on, man.
I think they have to bring in the kids because these kids are going to want to see this movie because they're saying, hey, your kids are becoming strong, superpowered.
Yeah.
So they know what they're doing by bringing in these children.
Yeah, I get that.
And then it's like, you need Gore to do something really bad so that the audience isn't on his side. You know, it's like the Killmonger shooting his girlfriend thing. It's like just just remember that they're evil. You know, like
don't forget the bad guys.
Yeah.
So okay, yes,
she was a dick though. She deserved it.
First of all, this is nothing new. It was done in Shazam, where he shared the power. Secondly,
Shazam? No, I'm joking.
might have been easier if Thor's got this ability, which he hasn't, I don't think. If Thor's got this ability to share his power with whoever he fancies, why didn't he just share his power with all of New Asgard and all of them go there instead
of the
like,
other Avengers when they're fighting Thanos?
Yeah.
And can he really use uses?
Isn't it a new power that he's only got since Odin died, though?
Not a clue.
Maybe. That's convenient.
Not a clue.
It's possible.
It just, I hear what you're saying, Ben. It was like a good uplifting, because you've got to have your uplifting moment, but it didn't make any sense to me. It was like, where's this come from all of a sudden?
Yeah, but fuck it. It's about a space Viking who has a magic hammer. Like, it didn't need to make sense. Come on now, Peter.
This is like when we give out about Star Wars things, Peter, and you're like, lads, it's just it's the movie,
lads, come on, it's space light swords. Come
on, it's something you care about.
I feel like he's bullying us now. I feel like he's picking on us.
I will say this though: you've obviously got Eternity on the screen, and fuck me, I cannot wait to watch this film with Grace and see the visible confusion on her face as Eternity sits there cross-legged. She's just going to be like, "What the fuck is that?" And what? Why? I do worry that is such a big concept that they really didn't kind of explain enough. And I know it's about show don't tell, and I guess they did do that, but I feel like with something like this, maybe you should tell a little bit as well, or at least have like Eternity bloody speak and say what he's doing.
Yeah, because he literally said nothing, did he? He just sat.
It was explained as like it's like a genie, and don't kind of think about it any more than that. Like, yeah.
So, and what?
Get out! Sorry. My feet.
Was that the only one that picked up where Eternity was? Felt very much like, I get the name wrong, where Red Skull is in the Mind Stone, that kind of mirrored flow, kind of water flow.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, I took it as like the ethereal plane or whatever, like the like where the gods talk to you and stuff. Like
But and then obviously we had the
sorry, Pete. I was just going to say my first thought when I saw Eternity in that whole scene, very emotional, and I just thought to myself, man, imagine Deadpool talking to Eternity.
Yeah.
Like I want to see that.
Yeah. Now there's a cosplay that would be a challenge for you, Ben. Dressed up as Eternity. Challenge.
Just follow me around with one of those like little
light projectors.
Stars,
So then we'll get obviously the end, the kind of the using of the hammer to contain the Necro sword, which I thought was really cool. I didn't like that. I did like that bit. And then we get the death of Jane and the birth of love, because it's not his. Is it his daughter or is it Eternity? Is a daughter? I'm not quite sure.
It's his daughter, isn't it? Eternity just has the power to bring.
But his daughter's got power at the end. She's got the power of Eternity because her eyes glow and all that kind of jazz.
Space shit, isn't it? I don't know.
Yeah, they do something his.
Jason, what did you think about the end and the very end? Did you?
The very end?
Yeah, the kind of well, actually, sorry, not the very end. We're going to get into that in a second. No, the death of Gore, I guess, and Jane.
I mean, again, there must be 4 or 5 fake deaths in this film, and for me, it always takes away the emotional impact for me.
Yeah.
I have been thinking, where can Thor go now, right? Because his arc is done, really. But I know what they've done now. They've shoehorned this little girl in so he can bring her up and show her his ways, and teach her and guide her and mentor her, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is she going to be a young Avenger? I don't know.
Yeah,
Who knows?
potentially, actually. Yeah. That would be interesting. So, the very, very end, we'll get the introduction of this guy. What did you think when you first saw him on screen? Ephraim, what did you think?
That's the actor in Ted Lasso. I forgot his name.
Yeah, Brett Goldstein.
Yeah, so I thought it was a quick scene, and they brought him in and out. So I liked it. It was a surprise. I didn't think he was going to show up. So I was quite surprised by that. He's going to be in the next movie, so they had to introduce him.
Yeah,
they're going to fight. So I thought it was quick and short, and it was good.
Good stuff, James.
I love when like who's playing a character is revealed in a movie itself rather than from like just Deadline reporting it. So I was excited, but then this is the first time I didn't know the actor, so I was like, oh, okay, cool. And then I just instantly had to get my phone out and look up who he was. But I've looked at a few of his things, particularly Ted Lasso, and he seems quite suited to it.
He's in Derek, today's thing.
Is he? Yeah.
He's a great stand-up as well. I've seen him a couple of times.
Yeah. He was CGI muscles, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think so.
He did look it, didn't he? Do you think, because he's not that big in real life, like, do you think maybe...
I don't think he was massive, though.
He was. If you look it up, he's huge. Like, and he looks a bit CG. He looks like he had
that
CG
like that in a couple of weeks. If I really
of course, yeah. I think maybe they CG'd him, and he will bulk up for when the Thor 5.
It's funny you say that, because I have to say is when he came on, after all, great Hercules, because I'm a big Hercules fan, I didn't think he looked beefy at all. My first thought was, he doesn't look muscular like he's going to take on Thor. Sorry, Ben?
I thought he looked small as well. Like, I didn't.
Yeah. I'll have to go back and rewatch. Jason, what did you think?
Well, I'm going to be honest here, guys, right? I think I blame Amanda. She was talking, right? And I think she was saying, who's that? Who's that? Who's that? And all I heard was Oculus, right? So when I went home, I purchased the first appearances of Oculus. Like it managed to get $3 really cheap, like £3.50, and I thought, why haven't these been snapped up? I didn't get it was Hercules at all.
Who the hell?
Like Hercules?
Who's Oculus?
I haven't got a clue. So I thought I'm going to spec on this.
Is this a bit?
He's in Fantastic Four, and I thought, perhaps they got a link there. It didn't. I didn't twig. I heard Oculus. He's obviously said Hercules, but it didn't look like Hercules. So I completely.
Jason, we all take our lead from you, man, in terms of the spec and all the rest of it.
Yeah,
Jason, you can't have your name on YouTube as Jason Parker Comics with stories like that. Yeah. Well, I'm retracting the name Comics from you.
Please do. I sold my Journey into Mystery #1 annual just recently. So we knew he was going to be in it, though, didn't we, guys? We knew Hercules was going to make an appearance. Definitely.
I sold mine last week.
Although I missed that.
I sold mine last week, unfortunately. So yeah.
I mean, did you not assume he would be?
Say again, Jason? James?
Did not assume he would be based on the fact.
No, I did, and I thought that this would probably be a good time to sell it to me. I got a good price for it. So I'm not going to complain.
Okay,
I got a hot toy out of it.
I wanted to pull you back on the previous discussion point, and I'm sorry to do this, but I think it's massive, right? That the MCU is creating characters from scratch. Yeah. So we had two in this movie. We had Love, and then we had Astrid, or whatever. Like, that is potentially a massive deal, because is this the future for the MCU in that they are becoming, it's almost like they're the T-9000 or whatever from Terminator. It's like they've gained sentience now and gained independence from comics. And I'm really excited by that prospect, to be honest, because it's like this new character of Love. There's no way, guys like us can moan about it on streams, because there's no history to the character. It's their character, so they can do what they want, and we, just enjoy the ride. So I did just want to bring that up. Sorry.
No, it's a good point, Ben. And I don't, at this point in time, I don't quite know how I feel about that, because the connection with the MCU for me is the history of the comics and the knowledge of them. I'm not opposed to it.
It's obviously a balance. I've got to say though, with Hercules, like if he doesn't shag something in the first half an hour of his next appearance, then I'm out.
Absolutely.
He needs to make love to anything that breathes.
Tremendous. Okie dokie, guys. So, final thought. I'm going to come to each of you and just let you have your final kind of summary of where you think this film shone, if you think there were issues with it, and then give us a final score out of 10 for how you think it performed. So, we'll start with you, Ephraim. What do you think?
I think overall, I'm just talking about the whole Marvel universe. I think we're getting it's not new anymore. When Iron Man first came out, I was like, oh my God, they're making movies finally about superheroes. So our anticipation was so high now. But these movies now that are coming out all the time, which I'm still, like I said, I'm still going to watch them, but they just don't hold the same excitement as the ones in the past have done. I like Thor, Love and Thunder. You know, comedy was off and on for me. You know, sometimes I wish it was a little bit more serious. And like Jason said, there's no really bad guy in these movies. They always have a redemption. If they ever, just a little side note, if they ever bring Doctor Doom into the movies, I mean, are they gonna make him pure evil and just leave it at that? You know, leave him evil. Don't give him any redemption. But they also have to pan, you know, for the younger audience, they do that, obviously. Yeah. But I'm just going on and on. I think I give it about a B-, the grade of this movie. You know?
A B- out of 10.
Yeah. Oh, B-. A 10. Let me see. 7. Then I'll give it a 7.
7. Very fair, Ephraim. Very fair. Yeah. And yeah, I agree with everything you've said, mate. James.
You know how like a lot of directors say, I think Martin Scorsese said this as well. Like, these aren't like superhero movies aren't cinema; they're like theme park attractions. I think this kind of is, to me at least, like more of that than it is a movie. You know, it's fun. I really enjoyed it, but I wasn't like sitting thinking about it the next day or anything like that. So, yeah, it's fun. It's not the worst in the MCU, but it's not in the back. I put it in the middle somewhere, so I'd give it probably a 7.5.
Which one?
What?
7 or a 5?
7.5.
Point.
7.5. So excuse me, 7 points.
Come on, Thor. Come on.
Long gap, man. I was like, pick the fucking.
I realize now you're taking the piss. It took me a second.
So a 7.5 again. Yeah. Jason, what do you think, mate?
Do you know what? This is weird, guys. I came out of the cinema saying to Amanda, I really enjoyed this film, all bar a couple of issues that I had. But since I've listened to all you guys, I've been a lot more negative about it. and you know, and I've even seen Ben's review video, and
I've made you hate it more by how much I love it.
No, you gave it a glowing review, and I don't know what it is. I think I'm perhaps being a bit more retrospective about it, and a lot of the comedy didn't land. Some of it did. I just don't like this fake death thing. There's, like, say, 4 or 5 deaths there that they should have stayed dead. Never did. Shame it wasn't the kids, really. Because none of them died. Annoying.
This is just evidence.
I would say 7 out of 10.
7 out of 10. Yeah,
I'm with Ephraim.
Fair. Ben.
This was exactly what I needed after Doctor Strange. Like, for me, where Doctor Strange failed was the action. This succeeded in the action. Was it over the top? Was it surreal? Yes, but bloody hell, pick up a comic book. The comedy in Doctor Strange failed. Did the comedy succeed here? Yeah, 99% of the time. If you put dumplings and screaming goats to one side, then yeah, I think in the most part, it was a funny movie. And in terms of the emotion, did it have the emotional punch of, say, Endgame or whatever? No, but we're not at that point. We are planting seeds after, we've just enjoyed the Endgame. This is a new beginning, and this isn't the time to the dark twist in this phase will come. And at this point, it's just about kind of laying the foundations and introducing us to sort of new concepts, new people, new characters. So I just completely loved it for what it was. And I was conscious the whole time of people's criticisms, because those were criticisms that had leaked in to everyone's minds before, you know, just with the trailers. People were already saying it was too comedy focused and stuff like that. So the whole time I kind of did have those negative thoughts, but really I was sat there with a smile on my face, and that couldn't be wiped off, to be honest. So, you know, like, look, I go to the Batman 2021 if I want dark, gritty realism, you know, comic book interpretation. I often, you know, Winter Soldier, Endgame, stuff like that aside, I often go to Marvel for the complete opposite. Vibrant, colourful, fun, tongue-in-cheek, you know, camp comic book content. And this was completely it. And I think there was a couple of comments in the chat tonight about people going with their kids and how much their kids loved it. Yeah. And right there, that is what it's about. You know, yes, great if us long-term fans enjoy it, but we're not necessarily the target audience anymore, and I think this film shows that.
Exactly.
8 out of 10.
I agree with you. We're no longer the target audience.
8 out of 10, did you say, Ben?
Yeah. I don't, you know, I get the flaws, and I can't give it any more than an 8 because of those flaws, but man, there was a lot to celebrate. Gore is one of my favourite villains ever.
Yeah, Gore.
Newsflash: Doctor Strange 2 was better.
I agree. I think it
throw
was.
them both out. Peter, you've got the controls. I can't throw people out.
Right, guys. So where am I at with this? So I came out of it quite down on it. The more we've talked, I'm the opposite to Jason. The more we've talked about it, the more I'm thinking, actually, it was fun. I did enjoy bits of it. You know, I've said before that one of my good gauges for movies is who I go and see it with. And if they can switch off their kind of, they haven't got the comic brain that I've got. My son and my dad thoroughly enjoyed this. They came out of it loving it. In fact, Thomas got quite irritated when I was saying it didn't do it for us. He just couldn't understand why I didn't like it more. I do think, like you guys have said, I love comic books, and I think that's part of the problem. The MCU is, as you've all described, is moving away from comic books a bit. I do think the action was great. I do think Gore was great. I think some of the set pieces were great. I loved Jane. I think it's just a shame that some of the comedy was so jarringly out of place. I'll use the dumpling as an example. It really did pull us out of the movie. So I did struggle with that. What I would say is, and again, this might be an unpopular thing to say, is I think if I'm looking at this from a comic book point of view, at the history of Thor and the long, all the rest of it, this does the character of the comic Thor a disservice a bit. It makes him the butt of the jokes and an idiot. But I guess this isn't the comic Thor. This is the MCU Thor.
That's the thing. I don't think Kevin Feige or Taika Waititi care, because that's not, if they wanted to, we would get that, because they are both capable of doing that. They don't want to give us that Thor. Yeah. They want to give us.
And let's be honest, they did kind of give with that with Thor 1, and that's kind of lessened each movie, if you know what I mean. That
didn't click with people so much. Yeah.
So anyway, for me, I think, to be perfectly honest, it wasn't a car crash. It wasn't a masterpiece. I think a 7, like a lot of you guys, is probably fair from my point of view. Yep. That said, I do want to watch it again, because I had a very different viewing of Doctor Strange second time around. So I will watch it again
as well.
I'm going to wait till it comes out on Disney Plus.
I mean, this is the thing.
It won't be that long.
Is it 40 days or something for Disney?
45, so it would be 40 from now.
Oh, for Thor, yeah.
45 days.
So we've got a few scores in the chat. We've got Darren, who's given it a 7.5, better than Strange for him. Fair enough. We have got Big Stack, just back from the cinema. Hi, Big Stack. He got a 7 out of 10, so same as us. James, or I think it's James. We've got 6. So too many jokes for the sake of it after a heavy opening. Yeah. And then Silver Knight Kyle is agreeing with this week in Metropolis.
Real quick, did you see Silver Knight Kyle's one of his posts? He collects platinum and Victorian age books too.
Yeah. So Silver Kyle's on the Grey Man's cover slinger show, and he shows some amazing comics.
I gotta check it out. That's awesome.
absolutely amazing comic books. He's got a hell of a collection.
Like Penny Dreadfuls and stuff like that.
Yeah, all kinds of stuff. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right, guys, listen, a massive thank you from me to you guys for joining us on this chat. You know, I love just rambling on about movies and TV and stuff like that. So I really do appreciate having the opportunity to talk to like-minded people. As we have done in this show, and I think you'll all agree, we don't always have to love the same stuff, but I think we need to have, a peaceful and pleasant debate about it, which is what I think we've had tonight. So thank you very much.
We don't have to fall out over it, do we?
No, absolutely not.
I
Absolutely
mean, I
not.
don't like you, Jason.
Well, I know. I know that. You've unsubscribed from me.
Kill the kids. Kill the kids.
Ben's opinion is so unpopular, he's had to come in disguise. Okay, guys. So thank you very much. Only other thing I wanted to mention is hopefully this panel again, we will be doing our. That's an interesting look. We will be doing our boys end of season review. So that will be coming up soon, probably within the next week or so. Okay, guys, thank you very much, and we'll catch you all next time. Bye.
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 Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.